Princess Solira stood on the cold metal platform of the Nerathis Star Cruiser's docking bay. High above her, pale lights hummed in a steady rhythm. Around her, armored guards waited with rifles held at the ready. Below them, a transport shuttle's ramp descended with a soft hiss. At the bottom of the ramp, two guards dragged a single prisoner forward. He wore a faded uniform marked with Earth's blue stripe. His hands were bound in heavy, polished metal cuffs that clinked with each step. Dust from the shuttle rose around him, swirling in the bright white light. Solira watched him closely. From the moment she saw his shoulders and the tilt of his head, her heart skipped a beat. The prisoner moved with a quiet strength. His back was straight even in chains. His dark hair was cut short in a military style. She recognized the uniform's worn patches, the way it fitted his broad chest. "Bring him up," Solira ordered, her voice clear but low. The guards lifted the prisoner, placing him on a raised platform before her. He turned his head slowly, and his green eyes met hers. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Solira's breath caught in her throat. The face beneath the helmet looked older, marked by scars and hard days. Yet the soldier's eyes held the same spark of hope she remembered. In his eyes, she saw the boy who once laughed at her strange alien costume, the boy she knew on a rainy day in a crashed ship. A low murmur ran through the crowd of officers behind her. Rumors had reached the palace that the human raid leader was captured alive. Many wanted him executed at sunrise to send a clear message. But Solira could not turn away. "Your name?" she asked, stepping closer. The guards shifted their stance, but she raised her hand to stop them. The prisoner blinked, as though waking from a long dream. He searched the princess's pale face, the silver crest on her chest, and her pale blue eyes. His voice was rough but steady. "I am Captain Marcus Reed, Your Highness." Solira's heart pounded. Marcus Reed, the name she had whispered in her mind for years, the boy who had shared stories under the alien sky, the friend she believed lost forever. "Captain Reed," she said softly, "you are far from home." She paused, seeking the right words. "You will answer for your actions, but first, tell me why you came here." Marcus lifted his chin, his voice firm. "I came to understand your world, princess, to seek peace or die trying." Solira felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Duty demanded justice. Friendship begged mercy. She turned to her aides, her tone regaining its calm. "Take him to the chamber," she said. "Prepare for the council at dawn." As the guards led Marcus away, Solira watched his footsteps echo down the corridor. In her chest, a single question burned brighter than any star. Could she save her friend without betraying her throne? Princess Solira walked down the long corridor toward the interrogation chamber. Her silver boots made soft thuds on the polished floor. Torches and glass pods cast pale light on the smooth walls. Guards flanked the heavy door and stepped aside when they saw her. Inside the room, Captain Marcus Reed knelt on a small raised platform. His hands were still bound, but he did not struggle. The chamber smelled of clean metal and recycled air. A single hololamp hovered above his head, casting a narrow circle of light. Shadows curled around the edges of the room. Solira paused in the doorway. She watched Marcus's profile, the straight line of his nose, the sharp shape of his jaw. He sat very still, but his chest rose and fell with quiet breaths. She remembered teaching this boy how to read Tikalian symbols on shards of temple glass. She remembered how he laughed when she bent down to help him tie his shoelace. A guard spoke in a low voice. "Your Highness, he waits your orders." Solira nodded and stepped forward. She tapped a nearby console, bringing up a holoscreen that showed unknown data tags and mission logs. She did not look at them yet. "How do you feel, Captain?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Marcus lifted his head. His green-gray eyes met hers again. He forced a small smile. "I feel alive, princess." His voice was raspy, as if he had not spoken much, and curious. Solira folded her arms and stared at him. You led a strike team against our mining outpost. Many lives were lost. Why did you attack us?" He paused and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his gaze was steady. "I did not know you were there. My orders were to disrupt the Empire's supply lines. I did what I was told." He touched the metal cuff on his wrist and exhaled. "I did not come here to kill you, Solera." Solera's heart thudded. He used her name. She stepped closer and the hololamp glowed brighter. "You remember me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Marcus's eyes widened. He looked up and to the side, as though reaching for an old memory. "Princess Solera," he breathed. You saved me after my ship broke in the storm. You risked your life to help a stranded human." Solera pressed her fingers to her lips, stunned. "That was so long ago," she whispered. "I thought you were lost." He nodded slowly. "I thought I would never see you again." His voice trembled. "I carried your gift, the silver pendant, on every mission." He closed his eyes and held his bound hands close to his chest. "It kept me alive." Tears stung Solera's eyes. She fought to keep her voice steady. "You kept it safe. I made it for you with my mother's silver." They stood in silence for a moment. The cold air of the chamber could not chill the warmth of reunion. Behind Solera, the holoscreen flickered with tactical readouts. She ignored it. At last, she spoke, her tone strong. "You will face the council at dawn. I will speak for you. I will tell them what you did for me." Marcus looked at her with hope and fear mixed in his gaze. "Thank you," he said softly. "I trust you, Princess." Solera bent forward and gently laid a hand on his shoulder. "And I trust you, Marcus Reed. Come what may, I will not let you stand alone." Princess Solera leaves the cold chamber and walks through moonlit corridors toward the palace gardens. Each step echoes softly on the marble floor. Guards stand at attention, but do not speak. Solera's silver gown trails behind her. She lifts her hand to touch the pendant at her throat, the same one she made for Marcus years ago. Outside, the garden blooms under pale blue starlight. White flowers glow softly among dark green leaves. A gentle breeze carries the scent of night-blooming vines. Solera finds her favorite bench near a marble fountain. She sits and presses both hands in her lap, still feeling the weight of her promise to Marcus. In her mind, she replays their childhood meeting. She was 10, curious about the blue planet where her ship had crash-landed. He was only a boy, scared and alone in a storm. Solera remembers wrapping him in her cloak and holding his hand as she led him back to her village. He looked at her with wide eyes, clutching his broken toy soldier. She fixed his toy with silver wire borrowed from her mother's necklace. His smile that night shone brighter than any star. Now she closes her eyes and imagines that smile again. She feels a knot of worry. The council will not understand friendship. They see only politics and war. If she fails to convince them, Marcus faces the prison pit, a fate no friend should suffer. Solera breathes deeply, steadying her mind. She will speak with strength and truth. Meanwhile, in a windowless cell below the palace, Marcus Reed sits on a cold stone slab. His chains are lighter now that he knows Solera lives. He leans forward, clasping his forearms together. The pendant's memory keeps him warm. He thinks of Earth, its green forests, crowded cities, and the faces of his squad mates. He wonders if he will ever see them again. A guard steps inside and places a small tray of food on a ledge. Marcus nods in thanks. The guard pauses, then lowers his voice. "Princess Solera spoke with the council," he says. "They will judge at dawn." She asked for mercy. Marcus's chest tightens with hope. "Thank you," he whispers. The guard bows and leaves. Marcus closes his eyes and prays silently for strength. Back in the gardens, Solera rises from the bench. Moonlight catches her silver hair, and she smooths it back from her forehead. She hears distant voices, advisors debating in the hall. She straightens her shoulders and picks up her pace. She must prepare her words. She must call upon the memory of a lost friend and the mercy that saved her once. Walking through archways draped in jasmine, Solira rehearses aloud. His heart is brave. His spirit is true. He honored me as a child and can honor our people as an ally. She pauses and breathes in jasmine-scented air. The words sound right. At last, she returns to her chambers and takes a deep breath before the night's rest. Behind her door, the palace grows quiet. The stars shine beyond high windows. In the silent palace, two friends stand on different paths, one in a lonely cell, one alone in a garden, both bound by memory and hope for dawn. Princess Solira could not sleep. The soft moonlight filtered through her tall windows, painting silver shapes on her bedchamber floor. She rose quietly and donned her cloak. Tonight, she would learn the full truth. She left her room and walked down silent corridors. The palace guards bowed as she passed but said nothing. Solira's mind whirred with questions. She needed proof. She needed to know why Marcus Reed had risked so much to come here. At the security wing, she paused before a heavy steel door. Two guards stood at attention. Solira touched her royal badge. "Open the cell," she said softly. The guards complied without question. Inside Marcus's cell, the air smelled of cold metal and recycled water. Marcus knelt on the stone floor, staring at the wall. He did not see her enter. Solira stepped forward and laid a gentle hand on his shoulder. He looked up with surprise. "Your Highness," Marcus murmured, bowing his head. "I thought you would not come." Solira crouched beside him. "I must understand," she said. "Your actions here affect many lives. Tell me everything." Marcus reached for the small pouch around his neck. He slipped out the silver pendants Solira had made for him so long ago. "You gave me this," he said. "It reminded me of home. It reminded me of kindness." His voice cracked. Solira watched him closely. "But your mission was to strike our mining outpost. You led men into battle. Why?" He clasped the pendant and closed his eyes. "I had orders," he replied. "But once I arrived, I saw families living there, children working in the rock tunnels. I could not do it. We were to destroy everything." Marcus opened his eyes. "I saved their lives. I let them flee. I destroyed only machines." Solira's breath caught. "You chose mercy," she whispered. He nodded. "I could not harm innocents. I thought you would judge me a coward, but I believe you would understand." Solira rose and tapped a panel near the door. A holo projector sprang to life at the center of the room. It showed logs of Marcus's mission. The records marked 200 lives spared, dozens of workers freed. The Empire's command had redacted this data. Only Solira could view it. She studied the figures. Each life spared was a proof of his heart. She turned to Marcus. "This is your truth," she said. "You risked your career to save strangers." Marcus bowed his head. "I owed you a debt. You saved me when I was lost. I repay that debt to your world." Solira felt warmth fill her chest. She reached out and clasped his hand. "Your truth will save you at the council," she said. "I will tell them what you did. I will show them these records." Outside, torches flickered along the corridor. Solira stood and guided Marcus to his feet. "Rest now," she said. "At dawn, we face the council together." Marcus straightened and nodded. Solira watched him return to the stone slab. As she left, she felt hope bloom in her heart. The hidden truths were now revealed, and they would change everything. As dawn's pale light crept through the narrow windows, the palace stirred with alarm. Footsteps thundered in the halls as guards rushed toward the security wing. Princess Solira darted from her chambers, cloak swirling over polished marble, heart pounding. She heard an urgent shout. "They have come for the prisoner." In Marcus's cell, two armored officers prepared to drag him away. Their faces were hard, eyes cold with duty. Chains rattled as they yanked him to his feet. Marcus tried to stand steady, but the weight of his bonds threatened to buckle them. He glanced toward the barred door. and saw Celira's silver silhouette appear in the doorway. "Princess," he gasped. Before the guards could react, Celira swept forward. She raised a slender hand, her royal badge glinting. "These men have no order from me," she declared, voice clear and strong. The guards hesitated, uncertain. Seizing the moment, Celira tapped a hidden code on the wall panel. A soft click sounded as bolt locks slid back. "Go," she whispered to Marcus. Marcus shook off his shock and bent quickly to free his hands. Each cuff popped open under Celira's calm direction. He rubbed his wrists and met her eyes gratefully. "Thank you," he breathed. But there was no time to speak. From the corridor came shouts and the clash of weapons. They slipped into the hall together. Torches flickered as they raced along winding corridors. Celira led him through hidden passages known only to the royal family. She pressed a secret switch behind a tapestry, and a panel slid aside, revealing a narrow stairwell. Marcus descended first, footsteps echoing on cold stone. Celira followed, tight cloak rushing the wall. They emerged into the bowels of the palace, where servants' corridors wound under kitchens and storerooms. Celira paused only once to glance back. A squad of guards swept past the broken cell, searching. She swallowed fear, tightened her grip on Marcus's arm, and pulled him forward. At last, they reached the old landing bay, a hidden hangar for supply shuttles. A single vessel stood ready, its engines silent. Celira tapped a console, and the ramp descended with a hiss. Inside, she found a pair of simple flight suits. She handed one to Marcus, whose uniform was torn and stained. "Put this on," she urged. As Marcus suited up, Celira sealed the hatch and climbed into the co-pilot's seat. Outside, distant alarms droned. She flicked switches, and the shuttle's engines roared to life. With a final look at the palace spires fading behind them, they lifted off into the rising sun. In the cockpit's dim glow, Marcus exhaled a shaky breath. Celira reached across and squeezed his hand. "We will finish this," she said softly. "Together." Below them, the palace receded, and with it, the walls that threatened to divide two old friends. Their flight marked the start of a new, daring chapter. The shuttle's engines cut out as it skimmed low over the moon's barren plains. Celira guided the craft down between jagged rock spires, her fingers steady on the controls. Dust plumed behind them as the landing struts touched ground with a gentle thud. Marcus Reed unlatched his harness and peered out at the gray fields stretching to the pale horizon. Outside, the air was thin but breathable thanks to the shuttle's life support seals. Celira stepped onto the powdery ground first, boots sinking slightly into the soft regolith. Marcus followed, testing each footfall. Above them, the distant curve of Nerath's blue planet hung in black sky, a constant reminder of all they risked. "We must move south," Celira said, scanning the rough terrain. "A hidden cave lies near those ridges. It will keep us safe from patrol drones." She pointed to a cluster of low hills 1/2 kilometer away. Marcus nodded, checking the small sat tablet she had given him to track their path by star charts. They set off, shuttle sealed behind them. Each held a portable lantern that cast a soft white glow on the ground. The wind was nearly silent, and the only sound was their boots crunching gravel. Celira led the way, careful to step where the lantern light felt strongest. Marcus watched the sky, matching star patterns on the sat tablet to the ground ahead. "Your charts are clear," he said after a few minutes. "I can see Polaris and the 2 hunting stars beside it." He pointed upward. Celira followed his finger and smiled. "Good. We stay on this bearing, and we reach the cave before midday." As they walked, Marcus broke the quiet. "On Earth, I learned to trust my senses," he said. "I'll show you how to choose safe water sources in the wild." He reached into his pack and pulled out a small filter kit and 2 collapsible flasks. Celira paused, curiosity bright in her eyes. "Teach me," she replied. They stopped by a shallow crack in the ground where frozen moisture glinted. Marcus knelt and demonstrated how to scrape the ice into the flask, then pass it through the filter into a clean container. Celira watched closely, then repeated his steps with careful hands. When the water came out clear, she tasted it and nodded. "This will keep us strong," she said. They resumed their march under the pale light. Soon, the ridge of rocks loomed ahead. Motioned by Celira, they crouched behind a boulder as a faint hum sounded overhead. A patrol drone glided past on silent rotor, its searchlights sweeping the ground like blind eyes. Marcus pressed against the stone, heart thundering, while Celira steadied her breath. When the drone passed, they slipped forward, keeping low. At last they reached a narrow fissure at the base of the ridge. Inside, a cool shadow awaited. Celira pressed a button on the rock wall, and a hidden panel slid aside to reveal a small cavern. Inside, the walls were smooth and dry. A shallow pool of water shimmered in the dim light. Marcus leaned against the wall, exhausted but relieved. "You knew this place," he said softly. Celira knelt by the pool and cupped water in her hands. "My mother showed me this refuge when I was very young," she replied. "I came here to think. Now I come with you." They drank and sat on flat stones, the moonlight filtering through cracks above. Between them lay stories of childhood laughter, of lessons learned and debts repaid. In that silent cave, two old friends found hope in each other and strength to face whatever came next. Princess Celira and Captain Marcus Reed climbed down the rocky path to the old relay station. The station looked old and battered. Its metal door was bent, and pieces of antenna lay on the ground. The sky burned pale green, and a hot wind rattled loose panels. Dust clung to their skin as they pushed the heavy door open with effort and stepped into the silent building. Inside, the station was a maze of dark halls and broken lights. Sparks leaped from stripped cables overhead. Marcus knelt at a fallen control panel and brushed away thick dust. He tested a switch. Lights flickered, and he smiled with relief. He found a spare power cell on a shelf, snapped it into place, and watched as the console hummed back to life, green screens glowing in the gloom. Celira took charge of the comms section. She wiped grime from a holo projector dangling by its wires. With careful fingers, she tapped commands into her datapad to reroute power from the emergency grid. Each line of code she entered felt like a promise to both their worlds. Outside, a distant drone hummed past, and a loose panel clattered to the floor, but Celira kept typing until the projector glowed steadily. Marcus set two small speakers near an open vent and tested them by speaking the simple phrase into his helmet mic. His voice echoed oddly until he adjusted the volume. Then he stepped back and offered Celira a nod. "Ready?" he asked. She lifted a slender hand to steady the microphone beneath the hololamp. Celira spoke clearly, her voice bold in the empty chamber. "This is Princess Celira of the Nereth Empire. Captain Marcus Reed stands with me. We request a parley to end this war and save lives." When she finished, she lowered the mic and waited, heart pounding so loud she thought the station might hear it. Seconds stretched like hours under flickering lights. Marcus stood beside her, tense and silent. At last, the comm line crackled and a calm voice answered in clear English. "This is Captain Elena Carter of the Earth Fleet. We hear you. We stand ready to talk." Celira exhaled a shaky breath. Tears pricked her eyes. She whispered, "They heard us." Marcus squeezed her hand and offered a grateful smile. Outside, the sky blushed pink as Nereth's sun rose. Tiny lights appeared on the horizon, Earth ships altering course. Celira and Marcus stepped into the open air and watched bright vessels glide toward them. Their people moved closer, bridging the gap between two distant worlds. Celira felt hope bloom in her chest. Marcus pressed her hand in quiet triumph. Celira turned to Marcus with a hopeful smile. "We must prepare for their arrival," she said. "They need a safe landing zone." Marcus pointed toward a flat clearing near the cave. "It is free of rocks and by fresh water," he said. Celira marked it on her sat tablet and sent precise landing coordinates. With the message sent, they both understood their work was only just beginning. Two peoples had taken a bold step toward peace, and destiny awaited. Princess Celira stood on the wide observation deck of the capital ship Nerathis, her silver cloak flowing behind her. Marcus Reed and Captain Alina Carter of the Earth Fleet waited beside the great viewport. Beyond the reinforced glass, Earth vessels glinted like jewels against the dark stars. A sudden alarm echoed through the ship. Hardened officers in ornate uniforms marched onto the deck, their faces set in grim lines. They formed a half-circle around Celira. At their head was Lord Varen, a high counselor known for his fierce loyalty to old traditions. "Your Highness," Lord Varen began, his voice low but cutting, "you have broken every rule of our empire. You hide an enemy, you free traitors, and you now consort with the invaders. This is treason against the throne." Celira's heart hammered, but her tone stayed calm. "I act for the good of our people," she replied. "I choose peace over endless war. Marcus Reed saved lives on our world. Earth's fleet comes not to conquer, but to listen." A murmur ran through the gathered officers. Some looked shocked. Others glared as if she had insulted them. Marcus reached forward and laid a hand on Celira's arm. His green-gray eyes shone with quiet confidence. "I stand with the princess," he said. "I trust her judgment. I pledge Earth's help for rebuilding and friendship." Captain Carter stepped forward, voice firm. "The Earth Fleet seeks only dialogue. We bring food, medicine, and knowledge. We offer healing, not weapons. Judge us by our actions, not your fears." Lord Varen's lips curled. "Your words are smooth, but words do not feed hungry children nor mend broken cities. Show us proof of your goodwill." Celira nodded and tapped a control on her badge. Holographic images filled the air. Scenes of Tehalian villages freed by Marcus, children hugging alien workers, Earth ships lowering crates of supplies. The officers watched in stunned silence as the truth of those acts played out before them. When the last image faded, Celira spoke softly. "These deeds speak louder than any threat. We can rebuild together." She looked at Marcus, then at her people. "I ask you to choose life." Lord Varen's face darkened. He bowed his head in defeat, signaling his officers to stand down. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons. Relief and hope passed through the crowd like a gentle breeze. Celira exhaled and turned to Marcus and Captain Carter. "Thank you," she said. "You have shown them our shared future." Marcus smiled, and Carter offered a respectful nod. Outside, Earth ships slipped closer to dock. Inside, the capital ship was no longer a place of fear, but a beacon of new beginnings. In that moment, Celira knew the hardest battle, convincing her own people, was won. The Earth ships glided down onto the cleared landing zone near the cave. Their engines hummed low, stirring gray dust into soft spirals. Princess Celira and Captain Marcus Reed stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as teams of human engineers stepped out in light flight suits. Behind them, Tehalian workers in silver vests carried tools and equipment from the shuttle's hold. Celira raised her hand, and a young Tehalian guide waved back. The two groups met in the center of the plain, where fresh water pooled at the cave's mouth. Children from a nearby Tehali village approached on foot, curious, cautious, but unafraid. An Earth medic knelt beside a little girl with a scraped knee, offering a gentle smile as she cleaned the wound with a soft cloth. The girl winced, then relaxed when the medic pressed a cooling gel to the cut. Marcus stepped forward and shook hands with the lead Earth engineer, Lieutenant Chen. "Welcome," Marcus said, his voice clear in the brisk air. He gestured toward the cave. "This source will supply clean water to both our peoples." Lieutenant Chen nodded. "We brought habitat modules," she said, pointing to small, pod-like structures behind her. "They can be set up as labs or living quarters. With power from the relay station, they will run in hours." Celira smiled. "I will show you the best spots for solar collectors," she replied. She led the engineers toward a sloping ridge, where sunlight struck the ground earliest each morning. As they walked, Tikali workers followed, carrying coils of reflector panels. By midday, the first module stood ready by the cave entrance. A bright blue tarp marked Earth's emblem on its side. Inside, a table held nutrient rations, medical kits, and small Earth machines that hummed softly. Across the clearing, Tikali artisans crafted woven panels from local reeds, planning to decorate the module's entrance with native art. The mood was hopeful but tense. Not all Tikali supported the princess's decision. A few council loyalists watched from afar, arms crossed and faces sharp. Their whispers drifted on the wind. "This is a human trick," one said. "They will claim our land," another warned. Solira felt the sting but kept working beside the humans, fitting a solar reflector onto its frame. Late in the afternoon, a rumble shook the ground. Supplies stacked near the second shuttle had tumbled, and human crates lay open, spewing medical packs and food bars. Tikali guards rushed forward, but Marcus and Solira arrived first. She knelt by a fallen box and picked up a food bar, holding it out. "They fell in the rush," she said. "No one meant harm." Marcus helped right the crates. "Accidents happen," he agreed. The guards relaxed, and soon volunteers, human and Tikali, worked side by side to restack the supplies. Their laughter rose over the clearing, a shared sound that broke the last line of fear. As the sun dipped behind the moon's rocky spires, Solira and Marcus stood together by the module's doorway. Tikali children clustered at their feet, and human medics packed up their gear. The two friends exchanged a look of quiet triumph. They had faced doubt and danger, yet here on this plane, two worlds took their first steps toward true unity. Morning light bathed the palace terraces in soft gold as Princess Solira and Captain Marcus Reed prepared for the final ceremony. Below them, Earth ships and Tikalian starcruisers stood side by side in silent salute. A red carpet of woven reeds and metal panels led to a raised dais where leaders from both worlds gathered. Solira smoothed the folds of her silver cloak and glanced at Marcus. He offered a steady nod, his green-gray eyes warm with friendship and hope. As the crowd fell silent, Solira stepped forward. She raised her hand and spoke in her clear, gentle voice. "Today we unite not out of fear, but out of trust." Two worlds that once stood apart now stand together. Behind her, human delegates clapped softly. Tikalian counselors leaned forward, curious. Solira's words carried across the plaza like a promise carried on the wind. Marcus took the microphone next. He spoke in simple Earth standard, each word chosen with care. "I once wore chains on this world's soil," he said, looking at Solira. "But today I stand free. Free because of her mercy, her courage, and her choice for peace." He turned to the Earth fleet envoy beside him and added, "We bring knowledge and friendship, not weapons." A ripple of approval rose from the crowd as humans and Tikalians alike felt the truth in his words. Next, leaders from both sides signed the Treaty of Neurathis. Solira and Marcus dipped quills into ink made from crushed moonflowers and silver dust. Their hands moved in unison, sealing the pact that would share resources, science, and culture. When the final scroll was handed to the royal archivist, Tikalian guards and Earth Marines exchanged respectful salutes. For a moment, the only sound was the soft rustle of curtains and the gentle clink of metal. After the signing, Solira led Marcus through the palace gardens once more, where white blossoms stirred in the breeze. Children from both worlds ran between the fountains, laughing as they chased floating holo butterflies. Craftsmen offered Earth-style pastries, and Tikalian musicians played soft, lilting songs on crystal flutes. Solira paused beside a marble bench and sat, her eyes bright. Marcus joined her, and they watched together as the sun climbed higher. "I never dreamed we would see this day," Solira whispered. Marcus reached into his pocket and brought out the silver pendant she had given him years ago. He held it to the light. "Nor I," he replied. "But your friendship saved us all." He tucked the pendant back and offered his arm. "Shall we go show them the first joint academy?" he asked with a grin. Celira stood and took his arm. "Let's," she said. Hand in hand, they led the first class of human and Tikalian students toward the new Academy of Stars. Behind them, their peoples walked together, stepping into a future born of trust and unity. In that bright morning, under two suns, the old princess and her once captive friend walked side by side. Proof that compassion can bridge any divide, and hope can light the darkest sky.